Welcome back to the Draped YouTube channel. So this class we learn how to make this lovely basic sleeve with this ball dripping effect. It's a very simple tutorial and it's beginner friendly. If this is something you like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. There are several ways you can make this sleeve, but this is one of the simple ways that I think you can make this. So to start with, you're going to need your basic sleeve, your long sleeve, your full basic sleeve. Okay, my long sleeve is 22 inches. I added half an inch for hemming allowance, and the width of my sleeve, that's round your armhole, is 14 inches. So 14 inches by 2 is going to give me 7 inches. So you can see that I have exactly 7 inches here, because the fabric I'm using is a net fabric and it's very stretchy. You can see. So if you're not using a stretchy fabric, you may consider adding 1 inch for sewing it on the underarm area. Okay, so I have my basic sleeve here ready. If you don't know how to draft a basic sleeve, there is a tutorial on that on the channel. It's very simple. So I'm just going to set this aside and bear my measurements in mind. So the measurement I'm working with now is 14 inches. That's 7 inches on fold by this 22 inches, which is my full long sleeve measurement. So now you're going to bring in the fabric that you're going to be using to form the drapes that you have there. So for me, I'm using this satin fabric. Okay, this gold colored fabric. You should use a fabric that is corresponding with the color you're working with. So for me now, I can use white or black, but this is the gold fabric that I have. So for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to be working with this fabric, and the measurements I used in getting this fabric is 14 inches on fold, the same 14 inches that I have here. Remember, when it's on fold here is 7 inches. So now I made my 14 inches on fold, which means by the time I open this out, it's going to be 18 inches. So I have 14 inches. I hope you can see it. It's going to be 28 inches. Sorry, 14 by 2. So basically what you're going to do, your round armhole measurement, you're just going to multiply it by 2 or by 1.5 inches, depending on, but it shouldn't be too much. So by 2 inches is okay, but if you don't want it that big, you can just multiply it by 1.5 inches. So I'm multiplying that mine by 2. That's why I have 28 inches, which is 14 inches on fold. And then the length that I'm working with is 20 inches. Okay, you can work with your full length. You can remember, we are still going to be gathering it, so it's definitely what you want to achieve at the end of the day that will guide you in the measurements that you're going to be working with. So this is what I have. The next thing now is to shape my design. So to shape it again, I'm going to bring in my basic sleeve. So it depends on where you want this design to start from. It can start from the head of your sleeve here, but for me, I don't want it to start. I want my net to still be showing on the upper part. So I'm just going to measure like 3 inches or even 2.5. I just want the tip of the net to be showing. So 2 inches or 2.5 inches is fine. So once you have that, I'm just going to fold it like this. You can see I'm folding it. If you want yours to start from, if you want this design to appear from the beginning, you don't need to do all of this, but for me, I just want this net to still appear at the tip. So I'm folding in that 2 inches that I want it to appear with, and I'm going to hold it with my pin. So after folding it in like that, you hold with your pin so that it's not going to fold back. And then I'm going to place it like this, fold point against fold point like this. I hope you can see it. So I'm going to use it to draft this sleeve. So now after placing it fold point against fold point, you can cut it directly or you can just use your chalk. So this one is going to be straight like this, just like what we have here, and this is the rest curved part of my armhole. So here you can just draft it directly like this, but I'm just going to add few inches to that as well, because I also want to gather a little bit of that place as well. So now after adding a little bit of my gathering, I think this is around 2 inches extra. From here now, I'm going to connect it diagonally to the hem in form of an A-line shape. So I'm connecting from here. So if you are not adding any gathering, any pleats, sorry, any pleats, because you are going to be working with pleats, if you are not going to be adding any pleats to the little armhole that you have here, what you just do is just connect like this, and then from here you connect to your armhole. But because I just want to pleat a little bit here also, that's why I added extra 2 inches like this. Likewise, if you are not going to be leaving lace fabric on top like this, you just place your design like this and then trace it out exactly what you have here, and then you connect like that. I hope you understand. So once we have that, the next thing is to cut this out. So I'm going to go ahead now and cut this with my scissors. You can see that we have like an hairline sleeve here. Okay, so after cutting it out, this is what it looks like. So now to sew it, the first one I'm going to be sewing is the upper part. So I'm going to open up my sleeve like this and lay it down. So that 2 inches that I marked earlier, I'm going to remark it, but it may not show very well on my lace, so just watch what I'm doing. So now from here I'm marking the 2 inches, and then I'm going to use my ruler to connect it like this so that I can have something uniform on both sides. So after connecting it like this, like I said, the net is stretchy. So okay, so after connecting it like this, I'm going to bring in the tip. Remember, it's supposed to be like this, it's supposed to just stand on top of it like this. Okay, so for me to conceal this rough edge, I'm going to flip it like this, and then I'll go ahead and sew this part, so that by the time I sew it and I flip it over, it's going to be neatly finished. So now I'll go to the sewing machine, sew this, and then bring it back for us to continue. Okay, so the sewing is done now, as you can see. So this is the rest of my sleeve. So before I forget, depending, this is like a standing sleeve, it's hanging. So if the fabric you're working with is not so strong, if it's a soft fabric, you may need to iron interfacing to this, which means you have to add lining to cover up your interfacing. So I'm working with a satin fabric, is not so soft, so it's still fine, and I don't want to add any lining to this. So I'm okay with the fabric I'm working with. But if your fabric is really soft, you may need to add interfacing just to strengthen it a bit. So before I forget, so now after flipping it over, you can see that it is now neat on the right part. So you can just go ahead and iron it so that it can lay flat, and you can see that it's just showing on the tip, or you can just top stitch on it. So now the next thing now is to determine where you want your drapings to be. So for me, it's going to be stop around my elbow area, or you can just flip this now and then note the midpoint, or you can just measure from your upper part here all the way to your elbow. My elbow is 11 inches, so from here now you can just measure 11 inches downwards, and then you notch that part. Okay, so now from the head of your sleeve here, you can do this before you fix your, before you sew it, it will be much easier. So now I have 11 inches around here. Okay, so since the full sleeve is 22 inches, so if I just place 22 inches, I can get my 11 inches easily. So the 11 inches is around here, so I'm just going to go ahead and notch that part. I'll fold the two together and then notch it. So that's where my gathering is going to, my pleating, don't know why I'm saying gathering, that's where my pleating is going to stop. So I'm just notching that area. Okay, so after notching it now, I'll take it to the sewing machine and start to pleat. Remember, when we were doing this, I added a little bit, so you can see the 2 inches extra that I added. So here I'm just going to pleat it like this to form, to fit into exactly to the exact space that I have here. So from there now, I'm going to go ahead and pleat this as well, and then the pleating is going to be stopping around here. I hope we understand that. So now when I get to the hem here, I'm going to fold this in like this before I pleat it, so that it can be neatly finished. So I'll do this to the two sides, then bring it back to show us. Okay, so I've gone ahead to pleat it. You can see my pleating now to fit into the notch that I have there, so you can see it on the wrong side. So I did the same thing for the two sides, and here also I pleated it a bit with the extra 2 inches that I gathered. So you can see what we have now. This is our main sleeve, this is the draping that we have on it. So now two sides, you can see that it's still very long. So to make it into that sizable, to the size that we want. So from here now you can actually place it on your sleeve to check the length that you want, but I'm just going to open it up here and then measure around 5 to 6 inches from the, or 5 to 6 to 7 inches from the starting point, which is the apex, and I've marked it there. So now just watch what I'm doing carefully. Now from here, now from the hem, I'm just going to try to get the midpoints of my hem, by folding it into two, so you can notch it. So after notching it, you get the midpoint of this as well. So you can do all of these actually before you start sewing to make it easier for you. So I think I got it. I made my marking at where the midpoint is. So now the next thing is to take this midpoint here, fold it inwards like this, and then take it to meet this at the midpoint, and then you tack it down. So I'm just going to be holding this with my pin for this tutorial, or you can just tag this with your needle and thread. So now once you have it like that, you're going to tack it down. This is going to reduce the length for you. So now after tacking it down, this is what we have now. You can see now that it's no longer as long as it used to be. So now the next thing is for us to take the sleeve together like this, and then we're going to sew it on the underarm. Okay, so now I'm going to take it together like this and then go ahead to close my underarm. So now I'm gonna have to sew it all down. Now the next thing is for me to turn these sleeves out. Okay, so I'm gonna have to turn this out now, and then I've inserted into my sleeves. You can see the pleatings that we have here. So now the finishing touch I'm just going to do now on the hem. You can see I just held it at the midpoint here to see how long this is going to be, and I think I like the length that I have here so far. So this is what it looks like. So now on this closed part, that's the underarm area, I'm just going to take this in as well, and then I'm going to tack them neatly. Okay, so again I'm just going to be holding that with my pins. So we'll take it to the mannequin so that we can see what it looks like. So like I said, so this is what it looks like on the mannequin. So the main focus is just to make sure that you don't have any gather here. You can see that this place is looking as flat as possible, just like we have our basic sleeve, and then the pleating starts from the underarm area all the way to the place where our elbow line stops. So here, anywhere that you see is poking out, you can just tack it with your needle and thread. And this is what it looks like on the inside, just like gives you this beautiful bouncy effect. I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.